because Walker's asleep.
All right, ready? Here we go.
Yeah. What a night! I mean, I know it sounds like way too happy of a reaction to a game the Sixers lost. I apologize for the soft claps, but I'm trying to make sure that Walker does not wake up
You
downstairs.
didn't stay up for the end of that.
No, believe it or not, he did not. Already showing that he's a fraud fan.
I was gonna say he's with everyone else saying he's out on the Sixers this year.
He gave up. He gave up.
After last year, he couldn't do it. The
Yeah.
one playoff run.
Yeah, I mean, listen. And sometimes you just know, and I guess that's the case. And I apologize for being just way too giddy, but believe it or not.
Yeah.
All right, let's get this out of the way. So I hit Brook Lopez 3 threes. I hit Tobias Harris 3 threes and Maxey 30 points. Didn't parlay him because I'm an idiot. Took them all straight, whatever. So it's been a great night. I know they lost, but like Elliot, that was one of the most alive I have felt during Sixers game in a while. Mm-hmm. It felt almost process-ish, except with Joel Embiid existing.
Yeah.
Where are you at, man? I know they lost, but that was a great night of Sixers basketball.
Yeah, so there are definitely some negatives I want to talk about, and I'm not just trying to come out like super clap your handsy, but like I don't know, man. I was just thinking, we were texting about this, me, you, and James Jackson, like during it, saying it felt like a playoff game. Like I know it was game one, but the intensity, the way they came back, like people on Twitter were tweeting along with it. That was awesome. Like when we say why we're excited for Sixers basketball to be back, that was it. And I think my big picture takeaway from that game was they are right there with the Bucks. I know they lost. And look, I am not a blame the ref guy. I'm like, hands up. But let's just be honest. Like the refs swung that game in the Bucks direction with that miss Giannis call. The Sixers had all the momentum. They were outplaying them in the second half. Kelly Oubre was killing it. Like that was a very encouraging performance in my opinion. So look, it sucks they lost for sure. And in the way you said, like, it does feel a little bit processy where they lost, but I'm able to sit here and go, well, that was encouraging. So that's maybe not what you want from a team that's expected to compete for a title. And the fact that they lost to the Bucks, playoff seeding later on, like not an ideal first opponent to lose.
We don't need to worry about playoff seeding.
You do have to worry about playoff seeding.
No, you don't.
It's going to be in the top three.
Oh, so would you knock it off?
It's going to be in the top three. So I thought overall, though, it was extremely encouraging considering how poorly the game started, for sure. Like early on, it looked like they were going to blow down the building. They looked sloppy. The offense was a disaster. They clearly need a point guard. We'll get into that as we talk about the game. Or we won't. You don't want to talk about the benefits.
We don't need a point guard.
We don't need a point guard.
We don't need that point guard. They don't need that point guard.
They had one they could have let on the plane. I'll tell you that. But anyway, I just I leave that game like everyone that said they weren't going to watch this team missed out on a great game tonight. And it was fun to have them back. It sucked they lost, but from where it was to how it ended, I thought it was an extremely encouraging performance.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not letting you try. You're like little big Janus worried about the playoff seedings after the first game.
It's true. When they're competing at the end of the year and they're like down 2-1 for the final game, or they only play them maybe 3 times. I forget, but it is a big loss in that regard, playoff seeding.
All right. Well, I'm not going to let that deter me from my biggest takeaway of the game, which is that never let James Harden within 100 yards of this team again. Like, I don't need him around. I don't want him around. I've been that way this entire offseason, or at least since I started on this podcast. I mean, what I saw tonight was a team that was fully bought in. You know, like Nick Nurse, I think you saw, what he's going to bring to this team from a day one basis. They played really tough. Yep. They had a mostly free-flowing offense. The one takeaway, outside of the James Harden and the ball movement and everyone bringing the ball up and making them harder to guard because everyone's bringing the ball up, is that I think the biggest detriment of Nick Nurse being brought in is Joel Embiid. Yeah. Like, it's just, I don't know how it's going to work. He every time he touches the ball, he slows it down. He struggles to move it when they throw a double team at him.
Did not have a good day passing the ball.
Not at all. And I just, my biggest worry here is that he gets frustrated and then they try to change everything. So it goes back to ISO ball Joel. And it's just so much more fun when it's not iso ball with Joel. When Maxi's like attacking, like when they're just pushing the ball up and down the court. Like it was fun. It was energetic. They were moving the ball, making the extra pass, playing tough. Like Kelly Oubre was playing like.
Dude, Kelly Oubre was unbelievable.
Where's that defense? I mean, if you had told me that was James Harden, I wouldn't have said you were crazy. I mean, he was great, but like, so I feel two things. Don't want James Harden back because I think everything's going pretty well right now. Worried a bit about Joel Embiid.
So let's do the Harden thing first, just to stick with that, because I have a lot to say on both topics. Like, all right, the Harden thing, where I agree with you is this does not look like a team that needs James Harden to come back. Like when the game started early on, they were lost. Like I think they only had maybe 15 or 16 points in the first quarter. They fell behind pretty quickly. And the offense just looked a mess. Like no one really knew what they were doing. And that's somewhat understandable. It's their first game with a new head coach. They have, Nick Nurse played a lot of players. Like Danny Green and Oubre, I think were the first two off the bench. Like a lot of players played early on. He was up to 10 players, I think, in the first half already. So it's expected that they're going to look a little sloppy. But where I disagree with you on the Harden thing is this team does need a point guard. Like, I get what you're saying. It's fun to watch a bunch of people bring the ball up. I thought Pat Beverly was really good tonight. I thought when he came in, he really calmed everything down. It's obvious to me Maxey is not a full-time point guard. He just can't be the creator. And it's not even that. I think if he really tried at it for a full year, maybe he could learn to do it. He's just not. He's better at scoring. Like, and I thought he looked improved going at the basket today. So I get your thing about James Harden where they looked like they could compete. I thought ready for this? The vibes were high. The vibes were high during the game. But they need a player exactly like James Harden. Like that's exactly who they need. They need someone that led the league in assists last year, can shoot. Like if they had James Harden tonight, they probably win the game. Like, let's be honest. If they have James Harden, they are winning that game, unless you think it impacts Kelly Oubre. But like as good as Pat Beverly played, James Harden is better than Patrick Beverly. So that's what I thought in terms of just their point guard situation tonight. I get your point. Like if James Harden's going to be a detriment to the culture, then that is different. But on the court, they missed a player like James Harden tonight.
See, here's where I disagree. Is that when James Harden is running the offense, like the first thing they do when they rip down a rebound, usually when James Harden is out there, is they get it to James Harden and it slows everything down. What happened tonight was what Nick Nurse I don't remember this as much under Doc Rivers, is that everyone brought the ball up. Like even like Oubre was initiating offense. Toby
he did it.
Well, Toby should not be allowed to.
No.
And every time he dribbles, an angel loses its wings. It's horrible.
He was okay tonight, though.
Oh, listen, Toby bought himself like a month of happiness.
It's not dribbling the ball. Yeah.
Well, no, it's every time he dribbles, it's bad. But I mean, Nick Nurse had said that they're going to try to find ways to reutilize Toby. And I guess reutilizing him is just making sure he hits 3 threes.
I was going to say, so he shot really well tonight, and I have the stats up. Like,
well, he told us last year he was an elite shooter, so that's something.
Tell a friend to tell a friend.
Tell a friend to tell a friend.
8 for 9 from the field, 3 for 3 from 3. I mean, that's one of the discouraging things is you get 20 from Toby, you get 31 from Maxey, and then you get 27 from Oubre, and you still lose. Like that is one disappointing part of coming away with like what ends up being a 1-point loss, But
also, I mean, Embiid's never going to play. I'd be surprised if he plays that bad again. So
he was not good tonight. I agree with you on that.
No,
9 for 20. He had 24 points on 21 shots.
That's like the most. Also, I've never seen him shoot that bad from the free throw line in my entire life.
Yeah, well, he started off really bad, and you could tell like he missed, I think, 2 of his first 4 or something like that, and then he made one, and he did like a huge gesture, like, "Oh, thank God." So yeah, I agreed. He did not play well.
But back to Harden, it's just. What happens with him sometimes is, we got to get the ball to Harden. He's got to initiate the offense. And like when you talk about leading the league in assists, like sure, like he can do that, but it does kill the offense when it's just he has to do everything, and it's stand at the top of the key, wait for James Harden to either hit a step back 3 or drive into the lane and make a pass. Like what happened tonight was they became tougher to guard because everyone was doing that stuff, and that's where I think the league's kind of going. Where it's like it's not just this one standalone point guard. Having a bunch of people that can bring the ball up and initiate the offense. Maxey can't do it, and I think they need a body, obviously. But it's like, do I need someone who's going to just have that much control over everything? When tonight it was everyone was involved, bang bang, hot potato. and everyone else kind of got involved. Like it not only is it for this team, I think also on the court, the assists are great, but there are a lot of like they're sort of empty in a way when it's only James Harden getting them and not spreading them around.
So 2 areas where I do think they missed James Harden, because I do actually agree there were a lot of positives to not having James on the court tonight. But 2 areas I thought, like we were saying, Embiid had a bad game. I think part of that is he's used to playing with a player like James Harden that can get him the ball in good spots, that can get it to him as a good entry pass. Like it sounds simple, but it's not.
No,
like we've seen a lot of point guards come here and be unable to get Joel the ball where he wants it. So I think that's part of it. But where I also disagree with you a little bit on just having like everybody bringing up is there were long stretches of this game, like early on, and then in the third and fourth quarter, like the Bucks went on runs where it felt like the Sixers needed someone just to calm it down. And Joel's not that guy. Like Joel, first of all, like he can't bring it up, but also he struggled passing the ball tonight. So like there are concerns about running the offense through him completely as a passer. But I also think that like Pat Beverly, not really a calm it down guy. Maxey, definitely not a calm it down guy. Harden, while I agree it's not great that he moves slow, there is a benefit in a way where if like the other team's on a huge run, he's like a calming presence. He walks it up slowly. Like, so I do think they're missing like a floor general out there without Harden.
Yeah, but at the same time, let's say he doesn't come back. I mean, isn't this what we kind of want Maxey to be? I mean, if you want Maxey to be Damian Lillard, right? I mean, if you think that he can have a better year than him, and by the way, it was noticeable having someone that you could just give the ball to in the last 4 minutes. Well, it's not like a center.
Well, that was one of my other takeaways is like probably should have traded Maxey for Dame. If we're being honest, like Maxey, good game and overall, but like you can just see the difference to your point, not to cut you off and steal your point, but I'll just do that. Like when you have someone at the end of the games that's Dame, like it's just a huge difference. Like it just is. Now, granted, the Sixers would have won if the refs do it correctly, but still.
Well, but who cares? I mean, I almost said 162. Over 82, like it's going to bear out more often than not that when you have Damian Lillard in a close game, it's quote unquote Dame time. I did like that it kind of felt like Maxey took that personally, and I kind of thought he was trying. Like it's okay to lose games early, but I want Maxey to try to do that stuff. I mean, I know Embiid is still a star, and he's still, but we've learned over the last couple of years that it is hard to get him the ball late in games, and someone else has to be able to score. And I thought Maxey late was at least trying to go at Dame and say I don't know what Maxey's moniker is going to be. Like Money Maxey.
Money Maxey's pretty good off the top. I feel like Maxey's moniker, like Dame time, fits perfect.
Oh, it's perfect.
Like still a little bit of a silly individual to have like a hardcore end of game moniker.
Well, I mean Dame Dollar, Dame time.
He's well pronounced by you.
Yeah, well, listen, you know me. Me. When he starts going off and hitting threes to cash bets, it's whatever you want. But yeah, it's just, I don't know, man. I know they lost, and I know like people are down on this team, but that was a legitimately fun watch.
Yeah.
And I just know that if Harden, I just want to let that grow. Like, let that grow. See what you have there. I know Harden can do some things, whatever, but like it's just such a ruiner of. Now, Kelly Oubre is not going to do that. Like
he's not going to do that every game. Oh yeah, I agree with that.
That's like
he's not going to. That might be
the
7 or whatever.
That might be the one Kelly Oubre game we get this month. Frankly, like, but maybe it's next time it's Pat Bev. Maybe it's I don't know, like they have guys to where they can also have moments to where it's not just Kelly Oubre. I don't know. It was a really, really encouraging first.
What I feel like I'm hearing from you and seeing from you, and I'd be curious how many listeners agree with this, is we talked about this on a few pods ago about how like the James Harden, Joel Embiid, Doc Rivers, like face of the franchise, like people couldn't do that again. Like after the second round exits, like they were frustrating. Obviously, Nick Nurse is gone. James Harden's not there tonight. And Joel played, but Joel was not a focal point of the game. Like if you just watch that game, knew nothing about the team, like you would have seen a lot more Oubre, Maxey. Like Toby, frankly, like Embiid was not a dominating personality. So I feel like what I'm hearing from you and seeing is like there was a freshness to tonight. Like there was a lot of different players we didn't see last year. There were a lot of different lineups we didn't see. Shout out to Nick Nurse for being willing to like play a lot of different, unique lineups. Like Doc Rivers was not willing to do that last year. And I thought Nick Nurse, I mean, at one point he had like Pat Bev, Oubre, Paul Reed, PJ Tucker, and Danny Green out there, which is a very weird, unique lineup. But like he's willing to try that stuff. So it didn't feel like last year's Sixers in that way. Like there wasn't the baggage of Doc Rivers. There wasn't the frustration of Harden, like foul grifting and all that stuff. Although I did think Maxey did a pretty good job going to the basket tonight, much better than he did last year. He must have, I think he ended with like 12 free throws or something like that, maybe even more. So
well, that
was encouraging.
He looked way more aggressive without losing the shot. I mean, the shot still looked great. Like overall, I mean, I guess they wanted, obviously with Hanlon or whatever, he wanted to be a 3-level scorer. And, I thought for game one, he was really, really good at that stuff.
Yeah.
And even like late in the game, he had a classic like pocket pass to Embiid that Embiid got an easy jumper on. So obviously you want to see more of that. And as teams have to gear more towards Maxey possibly being a triple threat, like that's gonna be something that they're gonna have to hopefully utilize more. So I mean, listen, you're the big Maxey All-Star kind of breakout year.
Well, it was not a good start to it. He got the 2 fouls early. Nick Nurse took him out, which look, I think Nick Nurse showed faith.
Yeah, but the first foul wasn't the first foul Bull?
Yeah, like I didn't think they were good calls, but I'm saying later in the game, I think Embiid got his 4th and he kept him in. So I do think Nick Nurse showed a little more of a willingness to keep his guys in. But my thing with Maxey is still, and look, he was like as the game went on, he was much better. He did get to the line better. I'm curious what he ended up with from 3. He ended
3 of 5, I think.
3 of 8, so not terrible, but not great. So he shot it okay, but like he still just looks small out there to me. Like he still doesn't look like someone that can really like carry the weight of being the top perimeter scorer. And that is another main takeaway I thought from just watching tonight is this team is right there with the Bucks. Like if they played the Bucks in a 7-game series after watching tonight, I probably wouldn't pick them to win just because I think the main difference is the Bucks have Dame and the Sixers do not. Like the Bucks have, because frankly, Giannis didn't look that good. He still looks like he's just like a running back, going to the basket. Like he has no like skill. He's just big and athletic and goes up there. But like, I didn't think Embiid or Giannis played that well. The difference was Dame just killed it early and made big plays late. So I'd probably pick the Sixers to lose to the Bucks right now if they played a 7-game series. But what the Sixers have is they had $35 million of salary back in, like Camden working out with Ricky Council, two-way players. And
he's not working out.
Chris Haynes said he practiced today. So
for how long? I know they don't really clock in or whatever.
You need the time stamp on when he's in and out.
I need to know how long he was working out for.
But here's my point. You have $35 million in salary for Harden. And then Tobias ended up having a decent game, but I don't think anyone would think Tobias is like a big loss. So you have $70 million of salary that you can do something with. And you didn't get anything from Harden, and you got some contribution from Tobias, but I think game changing. So you were right there with the Bucks, like Dame's first game in Milwaukee, like season opener. Like I thought that was a game where frankly it could have gotten ugly, and they really competed with that team. So if you can turn Harden into, frankly, after that, I'm a little more into like the Norman Powell, Robert Covington type of thing, just because imagine adding like more guys. Like this team is deeper than last year. They're deeper than the Bucks. I think they definitely need like a guy on the perimeter, and that's going to be tough to find. But you got nothing from Harden and you almost beat the Bucks. Like I think that's encouraging of you don't need to force the Harden trade. I get you don't want him back, but maybe you don't need him to play, or like you don't risk the injury and you don't integrate him back into the team.
Just get me a bunch of dudes. Like get me a bunch of dudes and see what happens.
But you need more from Joel then.
You wouldn't, but they will. I mean, they'll eventually figure out how to get Joel into the offense. Like that's not a concern. Mm-hmm. But if at least you get a bunch of dudes to where it's not like bogged down, get the ball, Joel, he has to do something. Like, have a rotation that's 8-9 deep with real NBA players, and maybe that's like something that like.
And you could see they had it tonight. You could see they had it tonight when the Bucks did it.
Yeah.
Like the Bucks had Dame, which was the difference, but the Sixers were in that game because when the Bucks had to do subs and they didn't have all their main their Lopez, Middleton, Giannis, Damon, the Sixers made runs. Like Kelly Oubre was a difference. Sorry. Sorry. Earmuff. Springer had a few awesome plays.
Springer's bouncy.
Yeah, they have 8 or 9 legit guys that I feel can at least in the regular season. We'll see in the playoffs, but 8 or 9 games that I think 8 or 9 players I think could play big minutes for them during the regular season.
I mean, think about it this way: like in years past, when another team, like even the Bucks. Like every time I feel like I've watched Sixers Bucks in the last 3 years, as soon as Embiid gets out of the game, as soon as whoever this
falls apart.
It always fell apart. It'd be like, oh, here comes Bang Bang Niang, and
well, I'm okay now. Although Danny Green might be cooked.
Shocking.
I know. I'm just saying he was not encouraging watching running up and down the court.
He's like 40 and tore his ACL like 2 years ago. I'm just surprised he's not the most fleet of foot. But like that's why, and maybe because people were just so mad at the Sixers it doesn't matter. But that's why I couldn't understand people being like, well, they're not going to be that or like any good or whatever. It's like they brought in way more NBA players. It's as simple as that. They brought in so many more just at least can be NBA
Agreed.
players. Are they amazing? No, but like you need that as your 7th, 8th guys off the bench. You need the Oubres. You need the Pat Bevs. You need, if you're gonna really compete for a title. Like there's so much deeper this year. And it honestly, I mean, to like your overall main point on Harden is it just make it a bummer that this is a situation, because if he came back and was normal and could just go play basketball and see what happens, then he could, but he won't. So I mean, like he won't. I'd be surprised. I mean, if everything is just we're here, we're having fun.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I agree that that's unlikely. But so I have a bunch of Harden thoughts on the playing thing. You don't want to move on from the game yet, though, I'm guessing. So I'll refrain.
No, let's do this. I have a bunch of notes from the game.
I do too.
Like we can let's close it out with our separate note bags.
The big J notepad.
It seems like you're dying to talk about the plane situation. So
I have a lot to talk about the plane. Yeah. Okay, so you want to do the note, the plane or the notes at the end?
Give me the plane, and then we'll round it out with the notes.
Okay, so here's my thing, and this works perfectly with the James Harden. So James Harden shows up to the airport and is ready to get on the plane. And there's been a lot of conflicting reports on what was supposed to happen. Either like the Sixers said he wasn't supposed to be there, or he like talked about him, but it wasn't short. Regardless, I am so disappointed in the Sixers for not letting James Harden onto that plane. I understand that James Harden might have been doing it as a publicity stunt. I understand maybe he's doing it just to like cause a scene. Maybe he wants to get on the plane and be a problem. But here's the bottom line. If you are going to have James Harden on your roster and you are going to say he's a valuable part of the team and you are going to insist to other teams you're not willing to trade him, then you have to give a little bit. Like you have to. I was talking to some friends about this and they compared it to like the T.O. situation when the Eagles sent T.O. away because he was being disruptive at training camp. And he went in the driveway and he did all the sit-ups and all those things. And it's like, yeah, like T.O. got to make his point. And the Eagles got to prove a point. But you know what ultimately happened? They lost T.O. He was not there that season. So while I agree it's frustrating how James Harden is handling it, and I'm not defending James Harden's actions, the Sixers have to be willing to give a little bit here. And I thought not letting him come to Milwaukee was like a petty move by them. He's still James Harden. He's one of the top 70, top 50 players of all time. He's a massive part of your salary. He's someone you traded a lot for. He's someone you're asking a lot for. To not let him get on the plane, I thought was foolish by the team. And I think it's like, and ready for this expression, it's like cutting off their nose to spite their face. Like, wow, you proved such a point. Like you can't leave for 10 days and just come back. Fine. All right, whatever. But it's not helping get James back on the team. So I just was really disappointed that this whole thing came from it. Not to mention, if he comes to the airport, you just let him on the plane. It's not a big story. The second you tell him to go away and like the security guard has to tell him and like Elton comes over, by the way, interesting, Daryl Morey didn't come over, but Elton comes over, it just becomes a huge scene. Like you would never see this with the Eagles. So I'm not defending James Harden. He's not handling this well for the most part, but like the Sixers need to give a little bit here to James Harden if they really want this to be rectified.
But I guess that's not like, what are they supposed to give?
Let him on the plane. Let him fly to Milwaukee with the team.
Why?
Because he's on the roster and he's part of the team, and they're the ones.
But he's not a part of the team. But he's not a part of the team.
He's on the roster. He's on the salary cap.
No. There's a difference between on the roster and being a part of the team. He's not a part of the team. He left in the middle of training camp. Like he left in the middle of training camp. That's not being a part of the team. Okay. That's letting down your teammates.
Then trade him. Like if you don't want him around,
they're trying to trade him.
No, but they're asking for a lot. Like if you don't want him to the point where you won't even let him fly with the team to Milwaukee, then don't like then don't act like he's some big part of this team. Like they don't include him in hype videos. They've stopped talking about him on social media. Like we get it. You are like James Harden is not a big part of the team. Then don't also act like you want a ton for him. I think they're almost like holding him hostage in a way.
Well, I think they're trying to get the best deal they can. And, maybe they're trying to involve some other teams. And in the meantime, just sit at home, James. But you can't just let a guy who doesn't want to be a part of the team on a plane to go out to wherever, Milwaukee, and do what? Is he going to be at the arena watching? No.
God forbid he gets to like
fly
but he's not on the plane. What do you think he's going to do? What do you think he's going to do?
He's probably. I mean, we probably know what he's gonna do. I mean,
I don't know if that's true though. He was in Colorado with the team, and it seemed like everything was fine.
but that was a publicity stunt. That's what I told you was a publicity.
But did
stunt.
it impact the team at all?
I mean, it probably maybe they would have been so sloppy in the first quarter.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, all those reps Harden took. Yeah.
They were wasting time.
They need to work this out, and it feels like the Sixers.
They are trying to work it out. That he doesn't have to
not letting him on the plane.
But he doesn't have to try to make a spectacle of it and get on the plane and go to Milwaukee, act like he's trying to be a part of the team when he's not trying to be a part of the team. He's trying to get out of here.
They would just let him on the team. I mean, let him on the plane. If he was just on the plane.
But how does it look? How does it look when he's sitting there on the sidelines? Like that's going
to
also
he's not ready to
weird.
play. Say he's not ready to play.
I don't know.
You really want Harden off this team, and I'm not disagreeing completely. After tonight, I thought it was encouraging in a lot of ways without James there. It seems so silly to me that they didn't just let him fly to Milwaukee. Like why? It's so dumb.
Well, probably because they don't think he's a part of the team.
That is probably why, right? Well, then trade him.
I think they're trying to trade him, and maybe Harden should accept that
and just take the Clippers offer.
Well, maybe they will. Maybe
they will. I agree.
That's my big take. Maybe they will.
Maybe they will.
But I don't think James Harden's dying to get on a basketball court. Do you think James Harden's dying to get on a basketball court?
Yeah, I actually do think he is.
I don't think he is.
All right. Well, I know I'm in the minority with this, but he did try to fly with the team.
Okay.
Enough James Harden talk after that encouraging.
It was one of the best Sixers losses of all time. I mean,
yes, it's like the process.
Can we please get back to the important things? All right, you want to go through our respective note bags before we get on out of here?
Yes, I do. Do you want to go first?
I will go first.
Okay.
One, I did not appreciate having Brian Anderson on the call immediately after the Phillies lost.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
In the NLCS, I know I've watched a lot of games at the stadium. Just a little twist of the knife.
Twist of the knife. That little reminder.
Yeah, it's like.
Well, what's funny? We did. You did obviously Fritz at 6, Sports Radio 94 WIP, biggest show on the station.
Good.
And I came on at 7, and we were talking, and I forgot that the Sixers were also up 3-2 and lost games 6 and 7, much like the Phillies did.
Great. Thank you for the reminder. You're
always
great at uplifting the city when they're down.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I had written here my second thing, just Embiid is the playmaker. I think that was part of what he wanted to work on this offseason. He talked about, and this seems like a classic Joel, overreaction to Jokic winning the title. It's like, I'm going to become the passer guy now.
It's like, bro, you were allowed to pass it before. It wasn't like, they were keeping you from doing that.
It's wild that it's year 10 of Joel Embiid? Year 10?
Something like that. I mean, he was drafted in, was it 13?
14, so year 9.
14? But he didn't play.
He didn't start till, I know. Yeah. Just still, when the double flies at him, has no idea how to pass out of it.
Yep.
It's
and also, what was that batted ball thing he did in the fourth quarter where the ball came his way? Maybe he wasn't going to get it, but he hit it like a volleyball or something. And he had a bunch of sloppy turns. I hate to be this guy, but I do feel like he didn't run as hard a lot of times. After that turnover, he didn't run all the way back.
Wow.
I know. I'm just being honest.
Accountability.
It just looked like for a team that was hustling all over the court, Joel looked like it was October Joel.
Well, the problem is that they've gotten pretty. They feel more athletic as a team.
They definitely are. Oubre, Pat Bev is better. I think the backup point guard Springer can jump out of the gym. I think they definitely are more athletic.
Yeah, I mean, then there's Danny Green.
That's unfortunate.
But
without Harden there too, they look faster.
Yeah, I think Embiid is naturally going to look slower when all those kind of more
Yes.
athletic guys are out there. It was also shocking, and we mentioned this earlier, but him at the free throw line, it was like I've never
Very
seen him
bad.
shoot that bad.
Yeah, that
Never.
was disappointing.
And then Jaden Springer, the double bounce or double hands
Block
thing
on
was.
Dame.
I mean, he's kind of what Zaire was supposed to be.
Only like in Marcus Smart's body.
Yeah.
So I think Springer, and look, it's a long season. He'll get a chance to develop, and like he defensively can be like a younger Pat Bev in some ways, like just their body type and like their size, but like the fact they're willing and able to guard a lot of different positions. But didn't shoot the ball well. Like I still have some hesitations about Springer as being someone that could be like a big time player for them. But in a long season, I think, he can be your ninth guy and give you some quality minutes. And I'm actually excited to watch him develop. It felt like under Doc, he never got a real chance to develop, but first round pick played, was I think the G League MVP. Like he's put up big numbers.
The G League
Finals MVP. There we go. So I'll be curious to see how he does with just like more playing time. And it seems like he'll get that this year. He came in midway through the second, and I would bet he didn't come in the second quarter almost at all last year, other than like meaningless games. So
yeah,
that was encouraging. Like Doc, wow. Nick Nurse seems more willing to play him.
Yeah. And I was really impressed with Nick Nurse. Like
I agree.
It felt like, oh my God, they have like a coach that like really is invested. Mm-hmm. And seeing him be like actually upset rather than the fake like Doc throw his hands in the air,
doing the shocked look. Yeah,
yeah. Like I don't know, man. He is a legitimate difference making kind of coach. Like
I agree.
If the worst thing he's gonna do is have adjustments and have these guys play hard, like great. That's
well. And I also thought there was the challenge he had worked. Like I was weird that he challenged it. They agreed it wasn't. They agreed it was not a foul on PJ Tucker, but then they didn't call it a charge. Like that was kind of weird. And that was the beginning of like the refs kind of making a bunch of calls in a row that felt like, frankly, they went against the Sixers. Is what it is. That's how the game. Like the refs are going to have an impact, but that was frustrating. But I like the Nick Nurse challenge. I like that he left Joel in with 4 fouls. I like that he played a lot of guys. I like that he tried different lineups. Like he did a lot of things that Doc didn't do last year. So I agree. I thought Nick Nurse was encouraging first game from him.
I always forget how much I hate the final 2 minutes of an NBA game.
Takes forever.
It's just game's flying, right? It's moving, and then all of a sudden, this game's never gonna end. Like it's
kind of like when Kimbrel comes in.
It's worse. And the worst is that you know, and this is strictly again selfish. Like at a 10:05 start, right for the late game, I'm trying to get my bets cleared.
I see what you're saying, yeah.
So then I can get my deposit, or to get the because I can go back, and so I have to deposit for the late game. And
right.
It's just like,
did you get it done?
Well, because I want to gate. See, they pay out immediately in the NFL. They pay out immediately.
The NBA takes a while, yeah.
For some reason, the NBA is like, yeah, we'll pay you 20 minutes after the game.
It is frustrating.
It's the worst. So
main takeaway: the issue with the payouts after bet from the game.
Dude, just when I immediately hit it. They would make so much more money. Like as soon as Toby hits that third three, deposit in my account so I can rebet it. You know what I mean?
Name the pod that pay the bets out to Jack quicker.
Pay the bets out immediately so I can lose
Sixers
them
recap
else.
pod.
Yes. And as people have learned, to take a lot of them Sixers bets.
Yes.
Kind of liked Paul Reed. I didn't like that he shot 1-3 from the top of.
And it was an ugly one. But he only played 11 minutes, which I thought was a little surprising. Mo Bamba didn't play at all. He felt like the only main guy that didn't play. But I was thinking if you're Paul Reed, you're making like $15 million a year or like 12, whatever it is, and you only played 11 minutes. Obviously, financially, that's awesome for you. But I wonder how he feels about the Sixers. And it's only one game. But the Sixers matching that offer and then only playing him 11 minutes. Like it didn't feel like his role was much bigger than it was last year. I thought he might be first guy off the bench. He was not that, and he played some of the lowest minutes of any of the guys that got in the game.
Well, good. I mean, like Paul Reed's not a $15 million a year player. Like he should be happy he got. He can do his little Paul Reed stuff whenever.
Yeah, Mike should get into that. Yeah,
I don't need that. And then my final thing is like. D'Anthony Melton should just be such a better 3-point shooter.
I 100% agree.
Like he should be so much better at because it always looks pretty good. It's just for some reason it looks like a slider. sometimes out of his hand, and it's like a basketball is not supposed to have run on it.
Yeah. So first of all, the Sixers would have a ring if Melton was a better 3-point shooter after last year.
Please shoot it straight. Why is it curving?
So would you? And I know it's reactionary after one game, and they're not going to do it, but. Would you bench DeAnthony Melton and put Oubre in the starting lineup? Like Melton was bad tonight. Melton, I think, was 1 for 5 from 3, if I'm not mistaken. They were all pretty wide open. 2 of 6. Okay.
Well, all wide open. It was only 2 of 6 because that last shot was off the backboard.
Yeah, and that was an ugly one. Yeah, like I agree with you. I think Melton, the idea of Melton is way better than what Melton actually brings you. Like he looks like he should be. I mean, he's a bit undersized. I guess he's not like super long and athletic, but he looks like he'd be a great two-way player, great shooter, great defender. And he's like a 6 out of 10 when everyone feels like he's like an 8 out of 10, in my opinion.
Yeah, he should be way better. No, he's a good defensive player. He's tough. But I'm cool. Like Oubre, like I want him on the second unit. And if he gets hot, like he's one of those guys that's going to shoot you out of basketball games. Like he's not,
or shoot you in them.
But that's what he did tonight, and that's why he was playing late into the fourth quarter. Like he's one of those guys you got to feel out in the first quarter of like, all right, what do you have? If he doesn't have it, don't play him. Like obviously you have to play him. Just you know what I mean. Like you can't play him bulk minutes late in the game. But if he comes out and it's like, oh my God, we're having a Kelly Oubre game, then you'll have him in the fourth. Like you can't rely on that as a starter. Like he's a Charlotte Hornets process Sixer starter, not a 51 win basketball team.
There was a point of the game when Oubre was their best player, and I was thinking this might be a bad sign. Like Oubre is like the best player on a bad team.
That's why it felt so good. It felt good to feel something again. That was what the process felt like.
It was like feeling the process back all over.
Oh my God! It was like this guy's obviously not very good. Time. Oh my God, he's not very good, but he's having a moment. That's me.
Oubre is not going to shoot this well every game, but
really,
if he can be 60% of the guy they got tonight, like that's a massive deal for this team.
Well,
like he's athletic, he can shoot, he can make his own, he can like create his own shot. Like he's not an end of the game guy, but if he can be like close to this, I mean, if he's not going to be this, but if he, like I said, 60% of it, that's a massive deal for the Sixers.
I don't need 27. You know, that's probably once a month.
Yeah.
If I can get a 20-point Oubre game like once a week,
or just shoot a high percentage from 3. Like if you can get him to shoot 40% from 3, which would be a big jump from where it was last year, but I think he'll get better shots for sure than he has in past years. Like just that alone, I think would be big for this team.
I was surprised at how tough he was around the rim.
Agreed.
It's not something I had.
He had a good defensive play. Like he was everything you could have hoped for in his first game,
and more.
Yes,
and more. So yeah, perfect.
Only other note I had that I don't think we touched on is like CP3 would kind of be perfect for this team.
Oh,
like a veteran guy that can just like be next to Maxey, calm it down. Like he's a slower guy for sure, and also not a playoff guy. So like that's not ideal. But I don't know. Like they just looked to me like they needed a floor general, and I feel like CP3 in Golden State is weird. I know it's early; they're not going to give up on him super soon. But someone like that, I feel like makes more sense than I kind of thought previously.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a big CP3 guy.
It's your Jalen Hurts guy. It's your comparison to Hurts.
It's always been my comp.
It has been. Yeah.
He's just Chris Paul, and for some reason that wasn't good enough.
People don't like that. Yeah,
he needed to be Michael Jordan. Like for me, he's Chris Paul.
Yes.
And yeah, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with him. We'll see if maybe it's only been one game, so I don't think they're going to give up on the idea that quickly.
Surprised. Yeah.
Yeah, the only problem is, like, I mean, obviously playoffs, but listen, whatever. If it's Eastern Conference Finals, we're happy.
Yeah, you can get out the second round. It's the next thing that hurts them.
The other thing, they would, like, really have to limit how much he plays.
For sure.
Like, I don't know if I'd play him more than, like, 10 minutes a night, frankly.
Well, good news is Harden doesn't even play. So if you're trading Harden for him, maybe you can just tell him to stay back in Camden. And
I'm sure the Warriors would love to get James Harden.
Yeah, that would be very weird.
All they feed off is beautiful ball movement and their perfect system. Let's bring James Harden into it.
So James Harden, who wants to run the offense. Yeah, I agree. Would it make sense? But a player like CP3, like I think they could higher quality.
How about Ish Smith? I was thinking Ish Smith.
There you go. Just bring the process full circle. Michael Carter Williams, Markelle Fultz.
Bring them all back. All right, Elliot. It was fun, man. It was good to have them. It was good to have them back, and it was just a great game. I don't care they lost. That felt like a win to me. It felt
I
like a
think
win.
if you're someone that's intentionally staying away from the Sixers, you're probably not listening at this point of the pod. But if you
No
are,
shot.
you missed out tonight. Like it's your loss. So I feel good. I'll give the performance a solid clap. A solid
And,
clap.
and I'll echo that clap. I just, again, don't want to wake
Don't
up
want to wake
Walker.
up Walker. Get it.
So, it was a great night. We'll be back. What? I mean, I was.
Dude, I don't know. The weekend they play Saturday and Sunday, so
No, we're gonna have so much to react to.
Yeah,
So
home
much.
opener. See if Harden's there. So fun times.
No, the bigger question is, all right, better chance at. All right, final thing here.
Final thing.
Better chance at happening. James Harden suits up and plays, or after the Eagles beat the Commanders, Josh Harris flies on up and is at the game.
Better chance Harden suits up. Though it is the home opener. You think Josh Harris will let me on his plane? Just be like, bro, I'm going. I'm trying to go too. Like,
I don't know, man.
I'm the biggest Josh Harris defender in the city. If he was smart, he would let me. But
I will say this: do not show up if the Commanders somehow lose. That would be.
Yes, I would agree.
If the Eagles lose the Commanders.
Yeah, if the Commanders beat the Eagles, I would not suggest Josh Harris sits courtside.
And don't bring Ron Rivera to
all right, my
ring
last
the bell.
My last question. If James Harden does play, does he get booed when he comes in?
Yes.
If he starts or comes in, whatever, he gets booed.
Yes.
Okay. I think that's wrong. Cheer for him.
Okay.
Any thoughts on whether they should cheer for him? Yeah.
I vote.
An opinion on that?
I'm not one to organize standing O's. That was obviously someone else and not me.
Right.
So I would organize a standing boo. But you know what's funny is that I don't hate James Harden as much as a lot of people. You know, like I thought he was good last year, and I'm actually just bummed that he couldn't just grow up and come back and play. And yes, I think the Sixers are at fault at the same time. I actually personally wouldn't boo James Harden. It's just like, whatever. There's James Harden. It's just style wise and what I see on the court. I don't like that.
Yeah, I think there's fair points to that.
And I liked what I saw tonight. I liked the movement. I liked everyone bringing the ball up. I liked how it flowed. And he just kills that. He kills that. So
he does.
It'll be an interesting weekend of Sixers basketball, which
is
always interesting. Yes,
it always is.
They are never dull. But for Elliot Shore Parks and Jack Fritz, this has been the first ever post game show for Clap Your Hands, and I can't wait to be back for the next one. We'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good, buddy.